Sunny Hostin thought she was in control of the narrative, but not this time. Her husband's alleged involvement in a $450 million court scandal didn't just shake headlines, it shattered her entire TV persona. The news exploded like a bombshell. A financial case so massive, so tangled, that it made ordinary courtroom drama look like child's play. And at the center, Sunny's husband, and by extension, Sunny herself. For years, Sunny positioned herself as the voice of morality on daytime TV. She scolded, she lectured, she passed judgment like she had a gavel in her hand. But now, the judge's bench had flipped, and Gutfeld and Tyrus were ready to prosecute with no mercy. Gutfeld didn't hesitate. He launched into the segment with that signature smirk and razor-sharp sarcasm that could slice through titanium. The moment was too big, too juicy, and Sunny had handed it to him on a silver platter. Tyrus sat beside him like a storm, ready to strike. He wasn't laughing yet. He was waiting, building up the fire, letting Gutfeld set the stage. And once it was lit, Tyrus brought the flamethrower. They didn't just critique, they roasted. They turned Sunny's silence into a national spectacle. "Where's that same fire now, Sunny?" Gutfeld mocked with glee. "Suddenly justice needs privacy." Tyrus joined in, swinging like a heavyweight in round 10. She was ready to sentence everyone else, but now it's her turn, and she's playing mute. The crowd watching from home erupted with laughter and shock. This wasn't your usual media commentary, it was a full-blown takedown. Sunny, who once thrived on confrontation, now looked like a ghost on set, silent, stunned, and visibly shaken. The View had always been Sunny's courtroom, but this time she wasn't the lawyer, she was the defendant. And there was no friendly panel to back her up when the facts hit this hard. Didn't stop there. He reminded the world how Sunny used to tear into other public figures over far smaller issues. But now, he said with a wink, she wants due process for herself. How convenient. It was brutal, and it was just getting started. Gutfeld played clips of Sunny's past rants about law, order, and justice. Each one now a contradiction, wrapped in irony. Then Tyrus dropped the line that cracked the internet. "Sunny used to throw the book at everyone else. Looks like now the book's got her name on the cover." Boom. That was the punchline, heard around the country. Every word they spoke wasn't just a dig, it was a mirror, a reflection of how quick Sunny was to pounce when others were vulnerable, but how fast she vanished when the spotlight turned. Social media couldn't keep up. Clips of the roast spread faster than wildfire. Hashtags like Nesha Sunny silenced and Gutfeld goes off were trending within minutes. And viewers were glued to the screen, not just for the scandal, but because Gutfeld and Tyrus were saying what millions had already started whispering, "Where's that outrage now, Sunny?" Tyrus leaned back, arms crossed, shaking his head with a grin. When it's someone else, she's the expert, but when it's her own house burning, suddenly it's no comment. He wasn't just calling her out, he was calling her bluff, and the timing couldn't have been worse for Sunny. The arrest had just gone public, and she hadn't even addressed it on The View. Not a word, not a mention, not even a passing sigh. Meanwhile, Greg and Tyrus were eating her silence alive on national TV, and viewers loved every second of it. People who once tuned out of political commentary were now locked in, popcorn in hand. What made it worse? Sunny's co-hosts had vanished too. No one on The View had her back. Not even Whoopi, not even Joy. The silence wasn't support, it was self-preservation. Joy Behar, usually the loudest voice in the room, suddenly looked like she'd lost her cue cards. The usual sarcasm was gone, replaced by stiff smiles and nervous sips from her coffee mug. Whoopi Goldberg, she didn't offer one of her signature monologues or moral lessons. She stayed quiet too. The panel that normally jumps at any opportunity for outrage had become a silent wall of discomfort. Greg Gutfeld pointed it out instantly. Funny how The View always has time to debate everything except their own hypocrisy, he laughed. Looks like justice is off the table when it's one of their own. Tyrus nodded in agreement, barely able to hold back a smirk. They talk about accountability like it's a group project, but when it's Sunny's turn, everyone forgets their lines. The jab was sharp, and the delivery even sharper. The internet. It exploded with memes, clips, and commentary. Sunny on silent mode. From judge to defendant in 3 seconds. Screenshots of her stunned expressions went viral faster than you could say deflection. Sunny had always thrived off public confrontation, until the confrontation turned personal. Now she was dodging cameras, avoiding statements, and hiding behind vague remarks like, "No comment at this time." But Greg and Tyrus weren't letting her get away that easy. She spent years pointing fingers, Gutfeld said. Now those fingers are pointing right back, and she's nowhere to be found. It wasn't just about Sunny's silence, it was about the pattern. Tyrus broke it down like a courtroom prosecutor. When it's a Republican, she's got a full case file and closing arguments. When it's her own husband, she forgets how court works. Even those who once supported her were starting to whisper. "She always acted so righteous," one viewer posted. But when it got real, she disappeared. The comment had over 12,000 likes in an hour. Gutfeld brought up an even deeper point: how media elites like Sunny love to throw stones until someone checks their glass houses. She built her reputation by climbing on other people's scandals, he said. But this time, the ladder broke. Tyrus clapped once, leaned in, and delivered a line that had everyone rewinding. When the queen of condescension loses her crown, all that's left is the ego. He said it with a calm fire that cut deeper than shouting ever could. Meanwhile, The View was pretending nothing had happened. Not a single segment on the scandal. Not a single acknowledgement that Sunny's husband was facing major legal heat. It was like watching a courtroom drama where everyone suddenly had amnesia. Greg couldn't believe it. This is the same show that once dedicated 20 minutes to someone mispronouncing a word, he said with disbelief. But a $450 million arrest? Nothing? Crickets? Tyrus didn't hold back either. Imagine having that kind of scandal and still showing up to work like nothing's wrong, he said. You'd think someone left the courtroom and walked straight into denial. The hypocrisy was too loud to ignore. Sunny had made a career out of criticizing others' moral failures, but when the spotlight turned, she vanished into the background like a shadow at sunset. Greg brought it full circle. She's not just avoiding accountability, she's rewriting her own rules. The line hit hard, especially for viewers who had watched Sunny grill politicians and celebrities for years. And now, with the courtroom heat turned all the way up, she couldn't even offer a single word of clarity. No apology, no explanation, no insight, just silence. And that silence was deafening. Meanwhile, viewers were left to wonder, what's really going on behind the scenes? What else is she hiding? What more will the court documents reveal? And why hasn't she said anything at all? The View had always been framed as a place for truth-telling and strong opinions, but in this moment, it was a house of cards collapsing on itself. And at the center, Sunny Hostin, speechless at last. The silence wasn't just strange, it was suspicious. People across the country started noticing how carefully The View avoided the topic, tiptoeing around the scandal like it wasn't front-page news. And Greg Gutfeld, he wasn't letting that go unnoticed. You can't spend years being the moral compass of TV and suddenly pretend your needle's broken, he scoffed. The audience watching at home burst into laughter. Gutfeld called it the disappearing act of the decade. He said, "You'd think someone unplugged her moral microphone." And the metaphor stuck, because Sunny was visibly off her game, and viewers saw it in real time. Even fans of The View started turning on her. One long-time viewer tweeted, "I used to love Sunny's fire, but this whole scandal feels like betrayal. If she can't face the public now, what was all that preaching for?" And just like that, Sunny's carefully built image was starting to fracture. Greg pointed out how quickly credibility crumbles when you dodge your own standards. This is what happens when you build a brand on outrage and forget to check your own closet, he said, with a grin. Tyrus nodded again, delivering the punch. That closet's not just full of skeletons, it's got a whole courtroom inside it. That line hit like a freight train, and it echoed across platforms. Sunny kept showing up to the show, but something had changed. She wasn't herself. Her usual sharpness had dulled. Her voice had softened. And every time someone mentioned the word court, her eyes dropped. Greg called it the mug shuffle, pointing out how she suddenly clung to her coffee cup like it was a legal shield. When in doubt, sip and stare, he joked. The clip went viral overnight. She had dissected families, mocked mistakes, and played prosecutor for years. Now, when it was her turn to explain, she acted like silence was a shield. But silence only made the guilt louder. Tyrus cut to the heart of it. You can't call yourself a warrior for justice and then run from the war when it shows up on your doorstep. His words echoed like thunder. And The View? It had lost more than ratings.
Makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull.
It lost credibility. A show that once claimed to speak truth to power had proven it couldn't even speak truth to its own panel. Greg reminded viewers of Sunny's infamous lines, replaying her strongest critiques from past scandals, and then, side by side, showed her recent awkward silences. The contrast was jaw-dropping. She had become everything she used to attack, and no amount of coffee sipping or cue card shuffling could hide that anymore. The public saw it, and they weren't buying the act. Sunny had one last chance to reclaim her voice, one final opportunity to address the elephant in the studio. But instead, she offered a half-hearted comment about respecting the legal process and quickly moved on. It wasn't just disappointing, it was insulting. To the viewers who trusted her, to the people who once applauded her honesty, and to the truth she once claimed to stand for. Greg's closing remarks were cutting, but calm. In this business, integrity isn't about what you say when things are easy. It's about what you do when things get uncomfortable. Tyrus added the knockout blow. She could have owned it. She could have been honest. But she chose to play the victim in a scandal her own silence made worse. And the people? They responded. Comment sections flooded with reactions, some shocked, some angry, but most just disappointed. "We expected better from her," one viewer wrote. "Now we just expect nothing." Sunny's image, once polished, proud, and powerful, had cracked wide open, and all it took was one case, one arrest, and one refusal to speak up when it mattered most. In the end, Greg and Tyrus didn't just humiliate her, they held up a mirror. A mirror Sunny didn't want to look into. A mirror her show tried to shatter. But the reflection wouldn't go away. Because when someone makes a career out of calling others out, the moment they go quiet is the moment their whole brand collapses. And Sunny Hostin, she collapsed with it.